movies for Black girl nerds.
Malcolm, thank you so much for your time today. These are always exciting projects to be on the eve of, and Marvel fans are really looking forward to it. Beginning with Sam and Bucky and their relationship, they're almost like the universe is almost like a spine, and they're kind of the ribs,
Yeah.
part like a rib bone in the body of the universe. What makes their story unique in a way that they never really were friends? They just kind of play for the same team. They kind of know each other. What makes the intersection of their relationship like prime storytelling to further us along in the universe?
It was a confluence of things. And in a single word, Steve Rogers, right? So what we did was the MCU at the time of our show is dealing with a global problem, which is Thanos is gone, half the population reappears. That puts the world in chaos. Every single person on the planet, now rich, poor, black, white, man, woman, they're all dealing with the same problem. Very similar to today, right? The one person who could best be suited to solve that problem is Steve Rogers, right? So then we drop in on Sam and Bucky, who are now being pushed up to the forefront of the Marvel universe, right? And they're going to emerge from this as very much as heroes of the day. Well, who would you associate with Steve more than these two guys? And the fact that they had a connection with each other, no matter how loose, and the fact that Anthony and Sebastian had that electric chemistry in Civil War and that split second thing, the fact that Steve is not around keeps the world in chaos. And the fact that Steve is not around aims these two dudes at each other as far as dealing with the loss of their best friend, but also dealing with a person who embodies what their personal journeys are going to be, or doesn't embody it, but is at the center of it.
With their personal journeys, these series have been fascinating because we don't get to see, we have, for lack of the better terms, you have your sexy characters, your big guys, your Captain Americas, your T'Challas, like your bigger MC that have been at the forefront. But now we get to see more of what makes these men who they are, what has shaped them, and all of these entries. Well, we're assuming we're going to learn all these things throughout the course of the season. What if you could liken their awkward relationship to something? I think about being invited to a party, and I know maybe the party, the guest of honor, but I don't know anybody else.
Right.
And there's a certain kind of attention or kind of like a weird awkwardness. How would you best categorize their relationship to each other over the course of this series?
I think it is two people who they've been in battle together a million times, right? And they had this mutual best friend in common who is actually kind of the center of their entire reality, which is Steve Rogers, right? Mm-hmm. I think they had this. Imagine you have a guy who you kind of assume you have a very profound relationship with because you've been in battle and the most important person on the planet is y'all best friend. And then he's gone. And you're looking at this person like, wait a minute, were we ever friends, or were we just two people who had a mutual best friend in common? Well, as they embark on their own personal journeys and they embark on taking on the antagonists and villains of the world, they're forced to sort of confront their relationship as they explore themselves.
With Falcon has been kind of unwavering with being on the kind of the good side of the spectrum. I can't think of a single instance where I'm like, oh no, Falcon, what are you doing? But with Bucky, it's a little more hazy with him. Is that a fair assumption to say about these guys? You've got one guy who is very forward with what he wants to do, and then you've got a guy who's kind of in the past have been kind of wavering. Is that a fair assessment of them?
Yeah, it felt like for Bucky, it was a long time coming, right? Sebastian is such a good actor. You can feel how tortured Bucky is, you know what I'm saying? But we showed up knowing this guy's 106 years old. This guy's been killing people in every era, right? Being manipulated by Hydra and never been allowed to be present in their era as a regular human being, right? and he's gone from one battle to the next battle without ever really getting a breath, right? Now he's finally in his right mind, and there is no immediate battle for him to take on, and he's crawling out of his skin. And what we did was we forced him to confront that, and we created a single storyline in his life that if he fails to absolve himself in this storyline, and it's personal, it's not related to the big battle, right? Then he fails to become a complete human being and absolve his sins. And if he does manage to do the right thing in his personal storyline, Bucky is actually going to be born for the first time at the end of the series. You know what I'm saying? For Sam, he is always been super righteous. There's a moment that's going to go can't tell you what episode, but there's a thing that causes conflict in people's lives. And the way Sam responds to it is exactly what you said. He knows who he is. And because he knows who he is, he's in a tough spot because he's confronting the Stars and Stripes. Steve leads him to S.H.I.E.L.D., and he is a black man. And he is not just a black man. He is a black man who's very aware of his family struggle and his people's struggle. And he's not good with what that symbol represents. And the decision, people think they know what's going to happen at the beginning of this series. But if you've seen it, which you have, his decision is opposite of what people are expecting. And it's coming from a very, very real place.
To elaborate on that as much as you can, speaking to Kari, she had addressed that as well. He's going to be in some very specific instances where his Black identity is central to his decision making or how others are treating him. And I think of him compared to Black Panther, to T'Challa, where he's very regal and everyone knows that T'Challa is like the king. Whereas with Falcon, it's a very different relationship, especially being in America and living that way. What would you say are some big, huge differences in Falcon versus the way, say, T'Challa is viewed by the MCU?
Well, to build on it first, you just keyed in on a lot of stuff, right? T'Challa is African, and there is going to be a commonality in struggle. If you are Black, then there's going to be an immediate reaction the world has that everyone would have to deal with no matter what. But he is African, which is its own thing and has a history that is extremely different from what we deal with as African Americans. And as you said, he is a king. He is royalty. He has been empowered from birth. And that's where that regalness comes from, right? Sam, what the audience is going to see where Sam comes from. And it's a very, very real place. And we wanted to lean into some of Anthony's real backstory as a person so that he could bring that humanity to it, because we wanted that Blackness to feel authentic and feel very, very touchable to people, so that when we took them on this journey, they could see a Black man, not Falcon, not a superhero. They could see a Black man struggling with the kinds of things that superheroes maybe either take for granted or aren't even aware of. You know what I'm saying? And because Sam is what he is, which is a natural born hero, I think it'll invite everybody of all races to go on that journey with him. And that's why these projects are so important. It's crucial that we get Black folk and people of color in general into these iconic roles, because that's something that can be received by everybody. And if you can put a honest consciousness and decidedly Black point of view on the characters, then you're doing something in a universal way, you know what I'm saying, with the hand of Marvel.
I love that. I know that's right. I'm super excited to see the rest of the episodes. I've only seen episode 1. Thank you for your time, Malcolm.
My pleasure.
I get to talk to you again, and I'm just super hyped to see
I'll see y'all on Twitter.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Take care.
Yeah.
Better shake your booties for Black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for Black girl nerves.